Welcome to the Big House Breakdown. Let's go with the intro. Okay, welcome to the Big House Breakdown, BHB, as they like to call it. We got some bills to pay. Sit tight, let's get it done. That's right. You bring 5 people to the Big House Breakdown, courtesy of yourself, and you will get a free 4-day, 3-night stay at American destination of your choosing. And then also, we got total package energy for all our sports and workout enthusiasts. Let's go. That's right. Total package energy, an all natural dietary supplement to help get you through your days, those 3 o'clock work crashes that we all seem to have, those sleepy moments. It will get you through and get you into the things that you have later on to do. Welcome to the Big House Breakdown. I'm your host, Vic. We are set for a ride today because we are going to be going over the Michigan win over Rutgers, and we will be doing our reviews, our previews, our eye test, our hot take to have you feeling great moving into the game against Nebraska, and then our weekly pick'ems. Shout out to my man Adam for Michigan Football Rant for inviting me on this week. Go check that out. That was a pivotal, very great, loosey-goosey conversation, hot conversation about Michigan football, Big Ten football, all things concerned. My man was supposed to join me today, but he had some priorities, so we got to let my man do what he got to do. Hopefully he could jump on next Friday. And then also, just a little bit about the show. We are the Big House Breakdown. We are, give me 1 second, we got a comment. Hey, what up, Lady T? Thanks for patronizing and coming through. But this is a football podcast, so I'm not sure, homie, if this is what you want to be involved with right now. Or you could, you know what I'm saying? If you like football, get on in. Tell us this is college football, though. Mostly, you know what I'm saying? That maize and blue from Michigan. But we take all football nuts, fanatics. Football has become America's pastime, especially college football. Why? Because them boys go out. Them boys go hard. Them boys give it up. And it's a little bit different than, pro football. Pro football is a little more political, a little more, touch and go. On the Big House Breakdown, we talk all things Michigan football. And without further ado, let's get into our game reviews. And to, get into our game reviews, I got a little video that's pretty cool. First of all, we beat that ass. Rutgers, we beat that ass. Okay? Let's just get that out the way. All right? We beat that ass, and we coming to get a little piece of Nebraska this week as well. You know what I mean? So, here's a cinematic, a little bit about how that win took place right here at Real HD Show. Check it out.
Jim Harbaugh, 3-0 teams. We've got Big Ten football from the Big House.
Punches right from the start. Get the A gap, knock the O-line back, get to the football.
In the backfield is dropped for a loss. Pocket for McCarthy towards the end zone. That is caught. Touchdown. Samaj Morgan. Turner drills this one.
I know about y'all boys, but I feel like something great's about to happen. I feel like something great's about to happen out here.
Screen. And that ball is in the hands of Sainrisville. Taking it all the way. Touchdown, Michigan.
Always have your eyes on number 0, Mikey Sainrisville.
Yeah, we could do this all day, but we have a show to run. But that was just some of the highlights, some of the things. We'll get back to more video footage in a minute. Hey, that's wavy. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, sweetie. Appreciate you for hanging in there. So let's get into it, man. We're doing a little bit something different. Because usually on the Real HD Network, we do the Real HD Show, and then maybe we'll do Simply Supreme. And then we also have the Broadcast Beats, which is a producers-only music show. All of those things are still in the works. All of those things are still popping for the Real HD Network. But now we are on to something that a lot of people in America know and love, college football. And we're talking about the Michigan Wolverines. So let's go. Let's get into it. And let's talk about game reviews, as it were. We're out of the cupcake bowls, and we're into our game review. And for all of you that want to join the live discussion, StreamYard.com, NJP2B45PMY. It is down there. Join and share. You can throw this link around. Lady T, if you want to, hit your cousin up with this link and have him get on here, that's dope too. Or if you want to just jump on backstage and I'll bring you up and you could be live with us, or you can comment. Okay? But let's get to the game review. So we got Michigan versus Rutgers. Michigan won 31-7. Blake Corum ran for 97 yards on 21 carries. JJ McCarthy ran 7 times for 61 yards. And Blake Corum scored twice. And, of course, Khalil Mullins had a 40-yard contribution as well. Colston Loveland had a 75-yard day. Roman Wilson had a 60-yard day. Donovan Edwards, 41 yards. And Samaj Morgan scored a passing touchdown. And, of course, on the Rutgers side of things, Rutgers scored right out the gate with a post route. And our returning safety that was injured kind of tripped up, didn't do his job. Rob Moore didn't do his job. Agent Zero, in that secondary, communication is crucial. Chemistry is crucial. And if everybody's not communicating, and if everybody's not working together, bad things happen. So, any team is prone to this. So Michigan gave up a big one in the first quarter. But then after that, we just marched them on down the field. And I was right about last week. Last week, I said the game, in my hot take, I said the game was going to be pivotal and the game was going to be based on how well Rutgers can withstand the Michigan running game and how we like to use that time clock against you and how we like to be like a boa constrictor. And we ate that clock up. And of course, I was right again when I said, Rutgers is not a third quarter team. If you look at the box score up there, you see third quarter, you see that donut right there in that third quarter slot. Michigan scored 10 points. Michigan scored 17 points in the second half, 14 in the first half, to a 31-7 win over the Rutgers Scarlet Knights out of New Jersey. You know what I mean? So once again, if you guys want to join this conversation, did you watch it? Are you a Rutgers people? Are you a Michigan fan? Are you a college football nut? Either way, we want you in this conversation because this is what we do. This is what we go over, and this is what we try to get accomplished on the Big House Breakdown. And we have some things that we want to show before we get into game preview. We want to show the college football landscape as it is right now. So as it is right now, Georgia's number 1, Michigan is number 2, Texas number 3, Florida State number 4, USC number 5. Let me move the banner so I can continue to. You know what I'll do? I'll turn it into a ticker. And that way we can all get with it and see it. Okay. So we got USC at 5, Ohio State at 6, Penn State at 7. Can't see number 8 because of the ticker. Number 9 is Notre Dame. Did you see the game with Notre Dame and Ohio State? Crazy. Them bums. That zero state, man. Them bums needed a 10-man person on the field situation to win. They don't get points for that. Number 10, Oregon. Number 11, Utah. Number 12, LSU. Number 13, Alabama. And I will stop right there. And we will also go to the Big Ten standings. And the Big Ten standings are interesting, and it might leave you with a lot to be desired if you're not careful, because they may show. Let's go to Big Ten East, and then we'll go to Big Ten West. And there we go. Penn State leading Rape State. Yeah, I said it. Rape State is leading the Big Ten. 2-0. Hate them bums. What they did to our young men. Hate them bums. They should lose every game they play. But they're 2-0. Can't do nothing about that. Maryland is in pole position in second place. 1-0 in the conference. Michigan is 1-0 in the conference. Ohio State is 1-0, followed by Rutgers, Indiana, and Michigan State. That is the East. And then I will plug in and give you your West, your Big Ten West. Let's get it in. Boom. Let's go to recents. Trying to give you your Big Ten West. Here it is, your Big Ten West. And your Big Ten West is Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, and Purdue. Right? And the only reason these schools are in the order that they're in is because maybe whether you took a loss like Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, and Purdue, or you play more than one game in conference like Penn State, or Rape State as I like to call it. You play more than one game, so you get the benefit of playing more than one game. But now that we are going to play Nebraska this week, which is a Big Ten opponent, the throne of the Big Ten should be rightfully where it is with Michigan. All right. So there you have it. So now let's get to game reviews. Game previews. Sorry about that. So we had game reviews, and now we're getting the game previews. Now, what are we previewing? Well, we are previewing the Michigan game versus Nebraska. Now, if you're the casual football fan, if you're a lady football fan, and all you watches for the men in the skinny pants, so you can see the bum from the backside. I got you. That's cool too. But for us who are staunch enthusiasts, we want to make sure that we are previewing Nebraska and Michigan, and we are talking about the X's and O's and everything and how it goes the right way on the Big House Breakdown. All right, here we go. So, looking at the Big House Breakdown game preview against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and if you're from the Northeast, Nebraska seems in the sticks, in the boonies. You don't know much about it, and you don't know how to even feel about it. But Nebraska is a blue blood. Nebraska is a football powerhouse from of old, and they command a certain amount of respect, and they have the way that they handle their business as a ball club. And their offense, Matt, Rule is their coach. Their base offense is the option, right? Now, of course, that's more with the advent of the spread offense. The option has morphed into many variations: pistol, jet sweep, and then the old school triple option, shotgun triple option, pistol option. A lot of different ways to do the option, and I'm sure they kind of mix up all of those things, including RPO. Glorified way of doing, and RPO is just another extension of option. And the defense they run is a 3-3-5, a multiple where they can mix and match. They can take people off the line, they can bring people on the line, and inherently, for an offense like Michigan that likes to run the ball, a 3-3-5 is a problem for a lot of teams, because it automatically leaves holes for, the offense to run through. It's inherent that way. But of course, with some mixing and matching and some game plan, you can bring some people up. You can stick some people in gaps. And you hope your tough is better than their tough. And, you try to confuse the blocking scheme of the opponent. And I'm basically talking about the Michigan Wolverines versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers on offense and then defense. So you see all my checks, across for Michigan. Quarterback, Michigan is better. At running back, Michigan is also better. Wide receiver, Michigan is better. Tight end, Michigan is better. O-line, Michigan is definitely better. D-line, Michigan is better, but not by much. They got some tough dudes on that D-line. Linebacker, for this particular matchup, Michigan's linebackers are going to be better because the middle linebacker for Nebraska may be out, dealing with an injury. DBs, Michigan is better, assuming that Rod Moore and Will Johnson come back to form. But you got that Mike Sanders still, boy. Yeah, that boy is a dog. That boy get it in. And in special teams, I'm going to say we're better because their kicker is spotty. Our kicker has been more efficient. And, you know, we have a lot more people that we can put in our return game to get more out of our return game. Let's see if we got some comments. Gotcha. Peace. Appreciate you, love. Keep checking for the channel. We got a lot more stuff for you that you might be interested in the programming on the channel. Keep rocking with us. Appreciate you. Do your thing. Have a great Friday night. All right, so we're back. You know what I'm saying? So that's the game. That's part of the game preview. And this is a Nebraska unit that is tough. They're coached tough. They're coached to win on the line of scrimmage. They play that way. And they, you know, they want to be tough. They want to be viable up front. They scheme to win the line of scrimmage. And, you know, we want to, while I'm talking about their, when I'm talking about the preview, I'm going to show a little video. Hopefully it'll go on in the last couple of minutes. I'm talking about the Nebraska-Michigan preview. Go Blue. Yeah, so like I said, they're trained. There you go with your man BC, Blake the Great, getting it in, being physical. Here's Michigan being physical. Man, I hope they're ready. Let me go back to that. I hope they're ready for Zinter, Keegan, and Nugent right up the front, right up front. And you see how this gap open up right in the A gap right there. Boy, I hope they're ready. And then you see Bredesen leading the way for a Michigan touchdown. I hope Nebraska's ready, man. We ain't playing no games with you. Look at that. Great block by Bredesen. But, you know, the quarterback for Nebraska, Harburg, he can run as well. And this is what you're seeing in this particular clip. You're going to see Harburg. They like to double team. They like to have unbalanced line. And they like to get their quarterback singled out so that he can run. He's got some wheels, too. Check this out. Yeah, he can scoot. He can move. He got some wheels. Yes, sir. Now, I don't think that that's anything that we haven't seen. As a matter of fact, we just saw the quarterback from Rutgers who's got some wheels, and we put a stop to that. We get great penetration with our D-line. Our blitz scheme is more pro-oriented. Here's Mikey Sanders still, Agent Zero, getting it done, being an X factor and a game maker with that interception. Turning, that was the turning point of the game, I believe. Here we are. That's Harrell getting it in. This is a Nebraska piece. There's a Nebraska DB being heads up. They got some ballers, man. They can play. There they are. You know, sniffing out a screen. I believe that's Harburg. One more time, the quarterback. Yeah, they got a really decent pass rush. They have a number of sacks on the year. And their defense is opportunistic also, because their defense basically, you know, across the board, they have 10 players with more than 10 tackles on the season. So they get after it as a defense. And they lead with their defense, actually. They lead with their defense. Nebraska defense is third versus the run. Michigan defense is third overall in overall defense, but first in scoring defense. So those will be some nuggets to know. So where we're talking about a game that very well may turn into a knockdown, drag them out defensive game, at least in the first half, when both teams will be boxing to see what the other team has and what the other team is going to deliver. I just believe we're better on the offense and defensive lines collectively. I think we have more strength. I think we have more. That's their running back, I believe, Grant. He's a player. No, that's Grant. I'm sorry. Grant is running with the football right now. That's Grant right there. He's very, very tough. You know what I'm saying? We got to watch out for him. I believe he's a backup running with the ball as well. And they love to run that rock. And then we also got Washington and Kemp responsible for catching the ball. That's probably one of them now. There we go. Washington and Kemp responsible for their pass receiving on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. There goes that tight end. I forget his name. But he gets those little pop passes. You know, there's their, their tilt nose guard, Hutchmacher, and here's another clip of them at work with an opportunistic DB. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a lot more accurate than that. That was kind of a lollipop that you saw. Michigan does like to run that reverse, so that might be something we may have to stay away from. But the screen game, they may be susceptible to screen game a bit because of the way they line up. Oh, did you see the block? Bredesen, did you see the block? Now, if we can get a block like that for Donovan Edwards, here's the block right here, fullback coming down, boom. If we can get that block for Donovan Edwards, he's off to the races. Donovan Edwards may return to form this week. If we could get that sort of point of attack blocking for him. This is showing how active their defense is. Yeah, I think, they haven't seen our offensive line, though. And, of course, this is Harburg, play action. He hits one of the receivers. I believe that's Washington. There's Kellum. Yeah. So they got some people, man. They got some people. There's that tight end again. You know what I'm saying? Receiver screen. I think Mikey Sanders still will blow that up. I don't see that going anywhere. This dude loves to run. He's not anybody's speed demon, though. He's nobody's Lamar Jackson. So we don't got to worry about him flashing and going crazy, but he does set people up so that he can run the ball and be tough going downhill. Yeah. See how many times they do it? They pull that ball. There's JJ flame throwing. There's your trickery by Michigan. Nice pass for Colston Loveland. There's JJ taking off. Lots of things Nebraska's defense is going to have to worry about. Bing. There's JJ hitting Colston Loveland in stride. Here's JJ off to the races because those defensive ends took a wide lane. And boom. There's the back shoulder throw to Shamaj Morgan. So now they got to worry about Shamaj Morgan. There's our mistake versus those are the things we got to worry about. Those are the things we got to worry about versus this Nebraska team. Now, this will be maybe the second or third game returned for this will be the second or third game returned for Will Johnson and Rod Moore. And they should be returning back to form. We shouldn't have those snafus in the first half. We're not even dealing with a wide receiver, collection of wide receivers like Rutgers had. I think Rutgers had better wide receivers than Nebraska. Their passing game is really not good. And, I don't think we have that to worry about. And that may help and move to our detriment because then we can begin to take some chances in the secondary, meaning Mikey Sanders still, Rod Moore, and Will Johnson. Our interception magnets can go to work. Even Mikey Barrett. We have 3 or 4 players that love to get underneath and pick that ball off. So You know, one more again. This is our Nebraska Michigan game preview on the Big House Breakdown. And now we're going to get into the eye test. Big House Breakdown eye test. Well, what's the eye test? Well, the eye test basically is a creation of my own, and it talks about, and it's premised on when you're doing football and when you play football and you play at the Division I level and pro level and you coach for many years like I have, and the eye in the sky don't lie. That's the saying that we all have in football. Because what do? They tape every practice, they tape every game, and you could think you're getting away with something, but then when you go back in that room and they put that tape on, everything's revealed. Accountability is on deck, right? So we do something on the Big House Breakdown called the eye test. And the eye test for this week goes as follows. Michigan passes the eye test collectively. Collectively as a team, I think Michigan, with its impact players, McCarthy, Corum, Edwards, Wilson, C.J. Johnson, Colston Loveland, Zach Zinner, Chris Jenkins, Kenneth Grant, Colston, and Agent Zero, Mikey Sanders still, they do their thing. So Michigan passes the eye test. And Michigan has a style of play that's a throwback, and I liken it to a boa constrictor. And what do they like to do? They like to chew clock, and they like to strangle the life out of your cardio if you're the opposing team. I'm going to bang you, and I'm going to stay with what I do all game long. And by the second half, you hold it on your knees and suck and win, and you can't cope. That's because that offensive line with Nugent, Zinner, Keegan, Barnhart, and the new left tackle will be pulverizing you into submission. That's what they do. That's what makes them so successful. They will throw that formula. They will run duo. They will run counter. They will run power. They will run pin and pull. They will run zone. And they will strangle you to death in that capacity. Now, what's interesting about the eye test for Michigan is with the new clock rules, Michigan is going to eat, and eat again. And it's going to be something that a team that doesn't have those bodies on the offensive and defensive line, they are going to have a lot of problems keeping up with the bully ball. Like Blake Corum said in his press conference, he said, or his afterwards, after the Rutgers game, we come to bully the bullies. So even Blake Corum, with his shifty speed type of style, has adapted and understands the necessity and the style that Michigan likes to run, playing that bully ball. Now, that doesn't mean that Nebraska in their 3-3-5 does not have them boys up front, because they do. They got them corn-eating boys up front, with that beef up front. They got it. But they better be able to be stout in the third and the fourth quarter when we coming downhill. Now, something that I didn't see last week that I didn't see in week 3 that I saw in week 4 versus Rutgers was Khalil Mullins getting those downhill carries. That chewed a lot of clock up. And it kept Donovan and Blake fresh while chewing that clock up. Personally, I would have loved to see Benjamin Hall in there, because I think Ben Hall might have scored where Khalil Mullins is beating him up. Either way, we remain dominant. I think Ben Hall would have bent it a little bit, like he knows how to do, because he's a true runner, and I think he would have scored. Now, does Nebraska pass the eye test if this was 1980? and or early 1990, you know, with their old quarterback who used to run the option, you know, their famous old quarterback number 3 who used to run the option and go crazy and rack up 200 and 300-yard games against people. And of course, Michigan had to share a championship with Nebraska in '97 because Nebraska had that very same, mindset and play style. Right now, Nebraska is a little down in recruiting, so they're not really that great in the skill position area. Their quarterback isn't really that dynamic. They got Sims, they got Harburg. They're playing musical chairs with them every other week. Somebody starting. Nebraska is 500 on the season. Anybody that's 500 on the season really doesn't pass the eye test for me. That means they lost as many games as they won. Michigan is 4-0, and they dominated all of their competition. And the scores are similar every week with every team that we played. So that speaks a lot to our continuity and our, efficiency, regardless of whether we play great or we play bad. Do I think this week is going to resemble that again? Yeah, I do. I do. And I'm glad last week that Coach Super Khakis Jim Harbaugh is back. And, he righted the ship because it was 4 weeks of, 3 weeks actually of interim coaches. And not that those interim coaches, Moore, Hart, Minter, Jay Harbaugh, not that those coaches didn't do a good job for Michigan, but when you don't have your dude, your guy, your leader, the man they pay the big bucks to, the person that everybody respects on a college level and a pro level, the person that rights the ship, the person that keeps, the I's dotted and the T's crossed, you can eventually get out of sorts. And I believe that's when JJ threw the 3 interceptions, I believe he was out of sorts. And I believe he was pushing it a little bit. He might have been thinking Heisman. He might have been thinking having kind of like a one-of-a-kind game versus Bowling Green. Pushed it a little bit too much and had the negative game. I think he's over that. And I think that he's going to learn from that experience. Last week certainly showed that he learned from that experience. And he was ready to take what he does to the next level, mistake-free football, and lead the team to the college football playoffs. You know what I mean? So now we're going to get ready and go into our next segment called Hot Take. Yeah, this is the Big House Breakdown. Hot Take. Now, what is Hot Take? Hot Take is a time during the Big House Breakdown where we talk about things. We try to give the sight beyond sight. What do I mean by sight beyond sight? Undercats, right? Sight beyond sight. So we try to look at football from many, many different angles and talk about things that are not obvious, but may make a difference, and keen insights to how Michigan will handle themselves from here on out, including this week's game and for the rest of the season. Okay, so the first hot take. Well, let me go over our Ninja Stars right by our impact players. That's the kind of moniker, right? Because impact players are not only stars, but they're weapons. Don't bite, Sports Center. Don't bite. McCarthy, Corum, Edwards, Wilson, Johnston, Loveland, Zach Zinter, the best offensive lineman that we have. Jenkins, Grant, Colston, Sanders still. And the only reason I didn't put Rob Morwell Johnson on there is because they're coming back off injury and they need to get back to form. So Nebraska's impact players are Harburg, Sims coming back from injury, Grant, Washington, Kemp, Robinson, Hutmacher, Bullock, Newsom, and they have another cat coming off the edge that's pretty dynamic for Nebraska. Now, my hot take, the site beyond site that I give for the game is going to be J.J. Mack in his line of scrimmage impact. Pro Football Focus did an interview on the Locked On Wolverines channel, and they talked about how JJ was lights out in the first couple of games, and then pressed in the third game, and then in the fourth game, we kind of had to we had to fold, we had to do the hospital corners on the bed sheets. We had to keep it nice, even, organized, play that Michigan bully ball, and get out of there with a dub. But what Pro Football Focus focused on was JJ. And if JJ is going to be a pro, right, they want him to be more dynamic on the line of scrimmage. They want him to call those audibles when he's in the gun or under center, based on what the defense is giving him. We don't want to always see it be a play coming in from the sideline. They want to see J.J. McCarthy take that step and lead a team that way. First couple of games, I think he was on his way to doing that. Had the shaky game. He'll return to form, and I believe he'll show more of line of scrimmage impact, both running and throwing. I believe, secondly, up-tempo offense and chewing the clock. Now, here's my sight beyond sight on this one. Now, you got to follow me on this one, right? I think Michigan could get really good if they put their passing offense in an up-tempo position. And that way you can get people like Tyler Morris on the field and Darius Clemens on the field and go 4 and 5 wide. You can motion, the Don into passing formations. Keep defenses like Nebraska on the heels because they have a game plan for you going up tempo. And I think those will be, doing 3-step drops for JJ so he could be efficient and matriculate down the field, passing that ball, I think, and then know how to turn it on and turn it off the up tempo and then chew clock when they want to. So if they go up 17-0, now it's time to settle down in the middle of the second, middle of the third quarter and chew clock. Now, if they could get like that, where they could pull both sides of that sort of offensive styling and operate it with efficiency when they want to, I think up-tempo will suit the offense much better. And I think you'll see people like CJ get a lot, Cornelius Johnson get a lot more opportunities to touch the rock in an up-tempo offense versus, 21 personnel. Loveland and Barner in the end zone, high pointing the ball. I think this is crucial for a lot of reasons because both them dudes are 6'5" or better. And I don't know why we have to struggle in the end zone when all we got to do is play action into Blake and have Barner jump ball. Nobody's beating him. He's just too big. JJ lobbed that thing up, and he's going to beat every safety, every linebacker that he posts up against in the end zone. So is Colston Loveland. You can run Colston Loveland on a corner. You can run Barner on like some sort of in route and just kind of lob it and let them big boys play basketball. Let them 6'5" dudes play basketball and come down with that pass. So that's my sight beyond sight that I think Michigan needs to start utilizing so that they can be more dynamic in the end zone. Now also, the O-line with their combos and their chemistry, can they finally find a chemistry with Henderson and Barnhart replacing those tackle positions? Can they anchor down, bang, 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 pass set, block, block, block? Can they get the slide protection together so JJ doesn't get sacks? Can they get the pro protection together? Can Donovan Edwards block from the inside out? Can those things happen so that Michigan can take advantage of the passing game? Will they, because of the new blocking changes on the offensive line? Is this the combination that will return Michigan's offensive line to dominance? I think it is. Barnhart played the position last year. Darius Henderson played the position in Arizona. I think this is the way to go. Now, my sight beyond sight on sacks with Brooks, Stewart, and Harrell. I believe those are them dogs right there up front. And no disrespect to McGregor. I don't think McGregor got enough tools in the tool belt, Batman, to be a good pass rusher. I've seen a lot of him last year. I've seen a lot of him this year. I think he's more of a box defensive end where he's going to be effective versus the run and effective versus the pass in his fundamentals. I think that's what you're going to get out of McGregor. But when you want to go after the passer, I think you got to put Brooks, Stewart, and Harrell after the passer. Harrell already has 2 sacks on the year. Brooks already has a sack on the year with a bunch of, behind the backfield tackles. Stewart has a sack on the year with a bunch of backfield tackles for a loss. I think those 3 dudes have to be run on stunts and be creative with the way that they get after the passer. Now, this dude right here I'm about to bring up, he's a Terrell Owens in the making, and he's on our bench. And he keeps, heavily recruited, all the speed in the world, all of the play ability in the world, all the hands in the world, Darius Clemens. Showed out a bit during the spring game. I think we need Darius Clemens to be an impact player. Now you got Frederick Moore, Samaj Morgan, Darius Clemens, Tyler Morris. We are searching for who is going to step up and be that bona fide slot receiver for Michigan. I like Darius Clemens because he's a big body. And you can cut JJ's interception, potential down if Darius Clemens is in the slot and you're throwing to him and you can high point the ball. And of course, you may get more yards after contact with Darius Clemens versus the smaller, shiftier receivers. And you can run all your Michigan run plays, your downhill plays with Darius Clemens because Darius Clemens is a big old body. He's at about 195, 200 pounds, all the speed in the world. Looks like Terrell Owens. If you see him warming up, catching one-handers, we need Darius Clemens to come in and make a big impact. I think that would give Ohio State defensively a lot to deal with if we could get Darius Clemens to get into the fray and give us some big game receptions and some big game play. Now, creative screen game. I think this is where Donovan Edwards can really benefit this week. I think if we're creative in the way that we go about our screen game and we run it off of some of our more characteristic plays, I think we can get Donovan Edwards in the flat in the screen game and let him tear it up. I can see him having some 30, 40-point, runs, catching screens out of the backfield. Use him like we used to use Chris Evans. We used to throw that screen to Chris Evans, and Evans would be gone. And I think that was the original reason they were using Donovan Edwards that way as a passer. They were trying to get him on in space and get him on roller skates in space. And we got an aggressive defense. They love to, hit gaps. They love to bring 6 men to the line of scrimmage. And if we can catch them out of the wrong run fit or the wrong pass fit as a defense, we can go downfield with our creative screen game. And we might even be able to do it with Blake the Great because they may not see that screen coming with him because he's not a usual pass catcher. Whereas if Donovan Edwards is in there, people may think he's coming to do some sort of ball, or you put the both of them in the backfield at the same time. So my site beyond site hot take on DBs. The DBs need to return to efficient gameplay. And I mean our interceptors, our pass defenders, we need to return to efficient play. Now, that doesn't mean that Will Johnson and Rod Moore are not efficient and they're not good ballers. They certainly are. What I'm alluding to is efficient play. And Nebraska's pass offense is nothing to, go crazy about. This should give you some good 7-on-7 reps if you're the DBs from Michigan. And it should give you some good play against a subpar passing offense and getting them to go ahead and get some stickum in that secondary. And they may be able to take a couple chances, like Agent Zero, Mikey Sanders still did last week, catching that pass. It was a 4th and 2 screen versus Rutgers. That was the game breaker. We have several game breakers on our defense, which makes us great, which is probably why we're the number one scoring defense in the country, number one defense in the country. Sanders still is a heady ball player. Colston is a tackling machine. Chris Jenkins picked off the ball during the last couple games. Will Johnson had a gang of picks last year. He's an All-American. And Rod Moore had a gang of picks last year. He is nobody to sleep on. And in the defense, man, I know. Here's the thing, man. Here's a hot take for you, right? Herbert, the strength and conditioning coach. Sorry, that's my baby girl. She's calling me, and she knows that I have the Big House Breakdown taping and show, and she's calling me during my show. So I'll get back with you, baby girl. Give me a minute. Almost done. So if you're going to be number one overall defense, right? Number one overall scoring defense. We're not a finesse defense. We need that defensive thump factor. We certainly need it, man. And we need Houseman to come off the bench and put that thump on somebody. We need Junior Colston. If that running back and you got quarterback on option, we need you to put your shoulder into Harburg, drive with your legs, and bring that crack. Mama said crack. Mama said crack. Right? Mama said crack. Right? We need you to bring that thump factor. Now, we know Grant and Jenkins could do that. We know that offensive line could do that. We need our linebackers to bring that thump factor. Because now, if Grant or Harburg take a nice shot, that's going to slow them down running that option. He ain't going to feel so great about pulling that ball and running it as a quarterback if he taking shots. Anybody who's ever played defense knows this. If you beat them up in the first and the second quarter, third quarter, they acting real timid. They high stepping a little more versus running downhill. We need that defensive thump factor. Now I know in college, the strike zone for defenders is all funny, and they teaching them that rugby tackling where you grabbing them by the waist and swinging them around and all of that. But let me tell you something. If you want to be respected as a defense, you need one or two people on your defense to bring that thump factor. And believe me, that sideline, they feel it. They feel it. And that's my sight beyond sight. That's my hot take for the Big House Breakdown. And if you want to give us your hot take for the Big House Breakdown, you can. You can pop this particular link on, and you could talk to us in the comments and tell us what you think about Michigan football and what you think about. Give us your hot take. Give us your sight, beyond sight, for this upcoming week against the Nebraska corn suckers, right? That's what I call them, the Nebraska corn suckers, right? I know that sucker word is old school. I'm going to get old school on you, Jack. Then we going to play the Nebraska corn suckers. Sucker. Just joking. But we're going to get into a segment called Shit Talking. That's right. Shit talking. So you can't silence me because we're going to be talking that shit. Now, during last week, Ohio State win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame was kicking that butt in between the 20s. They were. They were kicking that tuchus in between the 20s. And the bend but don't break moment for Notre Dame was on the goal line. There was 2 times when they had only 10 men on the field. And then, of course, can't fault Zero State when they took advantage of it. But when Ryan Day in the press conferences and the interviews after the game act like he won the college football playoff. He act like he won the college football playoff by beating Notre Dame. What he did was squeak out of there in a physical conference. But what he did afterwards was unclassy. But, you know, that's the state of Ohio. You know, they like to pull people over for driving on the highway and pull out 4 and 5 guns on senior citizens in the middle of them Ohio highways. They like to do little corny shit like that. And Ryan Day tried to pull out a narrative gun and come at Lou Holtz, which is the legendary coach of Notre Dame, because Lou Holtz had some things to say as a commentator about the fact that Ohio State wasn't physical. And he wasn't wrong. He was not wrong. They were not physical, and they're not physical. And Notre Dame exposed them. And anybody that's going to play Notre Dame from here on out is going to play Notre Dame similar to the way that Notre Dame played them this year and last year, similar to the way that Penn State, Rape State played them. They're going to play them that very same way and make them put up their dukes and prove that they're tough in the 1 gap, the 3 gap. They're going to make you prove it. Can't just run off tackle. Got to prove you tough where it matters. Hold your own nuts. All right? So now, moving on. We moving on with this shit talking session. Let's get it in. Hit the StreamYard link. Tell us what you think, and let's get it on. Tuck is fired from Michigan State. Now, there's a lot of Michigan people, a lot of the A2 fans that hate Tuck because he represents Michigan State. And with good reason. I'm 50-50 on it. He's okay. I think the scowl is a little cap, when he brings the scowl and the down eyebrow and talking about Tuck coming in Michigan to put a 30 burger on you and bury you with the clock. Boa constrict your behind with the clock, right? All right, Tess. Right? Give me that boa. Right? That Rocky Balboa. But Tuck got fired over some sexual harassment allegations. And of course, with the aftermath of him being fired, of course, contractually, they're going to have to give up some bread because they let him go prematurely. And there's probably going to be a fire sale at Michigan State for their players that are currently on the roster and their players that they're recruiting. Now, there's 2 players that I particularly think is critical that Michigan can go after. And one is a 6'3", 6'4" receiver named Marsh. Now, Michigan has been going with him. They like the way that Tuck recruited. So that kid is leaning toward Michigan State as of right now. But the way that things are happening, as it stands, Michigan State is going to be a whole mess unless they just cutting checks for people. So we can go after Marsh, and we can go after that really good offensive lineman that they recruited. I forget the name. I think his name is Duds or something with a D. But he's a 4-star offensive lineman. Marsh is a 4-star receiver. May even be 5-star at the end of his senior campaign. We need to go after them dudes. And of course, there's some people on the roster. And the transfer portal is always hot. And I know the transfer portal is going to be hot for Michigan State once again because Tuck has made a mess of that program. All right, man, let's get on to Coach Prime now. I'm a fan of Coach Prime. I grew up watching Prime, do his end zone dance. And I've grown up watching Prime go to multiple teams and win Super Bowls for them, play corner and safety. I've grown up watching Prime raise his family members who play football, nephews, cousins, sons to be prime athletes, to be elite athletes. I can't knock his method. People are jelly over his, his bravado and the way he gets things done on that level. Don't be jealous of Coach Prime. But Prime and the Colorado Buffs took an L. They got to hold their own nuts on that L that they just took. Let us know how you feel about Prime and the L that they just took to the Nike team in Oregon. They took that L. It was an interesting approach that Oregon took because Oregon classically is a passing team, and they like their skill positions to be fast, not slow, right? So what they did is they decided to win that game on the line of scrimmage. And they decided to take some chances because they knew that they were better on the LOS than Coach Prime's team. And they also knew that in the trenches on special teams, they can take advantage of some things, and they did. And the first half was just a shit show. Prime had to eat a shit sandwich in that first half. Second half was a little bit better, but, the deficit was too much to overcome. I think Prime and the Buffs will return to form this week, win another game, and then they're always going to kind of be shown out when it comes to LOS play, line of scrimmage. Because, if you're going to get worn out and your cardio ain't that good on the line of scrimmage and you don't have depth, it's going to show up in the way you play when you get in the trenches. So we rooting for you, Prime. Do your thing, man. Get them kids coached up. And let's see if you can scheme up a way to get your playmakers back, like Travis Hunter and Dixon and all them dudes, so that Shedeur Sanders has some people to get the ball to. All right. I believe Michigan should be more insidious and flip recruits like Nitro Tuggle that has committed to Georgia. I think if we could flip a Nitro Tuggle that's committed to Georgia, that would be a great thing. If we could flip a Marsh that's committed to Michigan State, those are two receivers that I think will pay dividends for the program. I think we can flip one or two of those defensive ends before it's all said and done. And having us and seeing us put that beat up on Zero State will help with the overall effort of flipping recruits. I think Michigan needs to be a little more strategic with the way they go about recruiting so that no school could just come through and say, I'm going to give you the bag, and the recruits just move on. Yeah, I think that's a little corny. We need to be a little more insidious, a little more, and get them boys to flip. All right. Another thing. Nebraska podcasts. Nebraska football podcasts are in fantasy land. I've listened to about maybe 4 Nebraska football podcasts, and they all think that they have a chance at beating Michigan. And I don't get it. We're better than them in every statistical category. The O-line and the D-line. We're better than them at DB. We're better than them at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver, and tight end. But somehow, some way, they think Nebraska has a chance at beating Michigan. Yo, I don't know where y'all live. I don't know what fantasy pot you rubbing, waiting for the genie to come out of, but knock it off. Stop rubbing the fantasy pot, man. Thinking that a genie looking like your favorite R&B star is going to jump out, be super sexy for you, and grant you your corn-sucking wish. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And I don't think you need to even dream back to that game we played in Lincoln a couple years ago that was down to the wire. Is that the reason why they think this is going to be some sort of upstart for Nebraska? I'm not saying Nebraska don't got people. I'm not saying the 3-3-5 might not be effective for Nebraska in the first quarter. Maybe even the second quarter, keeping the game low scoring in the first half. But we had all season to look at what TCU was doing with that 3-3-5. And we had all off season to scheme against it. Right? We're talking all those pro heads in the room, all those football heads in the room. What can we do to scheme against the 3-3-5 and the haphazard way it eats up gaps, and one of the ways that it can cause trouble for your blocking? Well, the nature of the 3-3-5 is to take chances in many, many areas that, bring themselves to bear on the line of scrimmage. That's why I said JJ's line of scrimmage impact is going to be important, because he's going to have to make them show their hand, which wastes more clock. And then he can check in or out of a play on the line of scrimmage and get them in and out of bad run fits, bad passing techniques and coverages, and really take advantage of the flats with tight ends and running backs, really take advantage of the downhill passing game, play action passing game, all of it. Give a certain look like 21 personnel, motion out of it, make people respect Barnhart and Colston Loveland with their 6'5" selves, jump ball. We might get a lot of run after the catch if we could be good dissecting what the 3-3-5 likes to do on the line of scrimmage and adjust. So I think they really in fantasy land, man, because two teams already showed, three teams actually, Minnesota in the second half, Colorado all game passed all over Nebraska, and I forget the other team that they played, but they showed that Nebraska can have a penchant for getting sucked in on the pass and being vulnerable to the pass. And then last but not least, we want to, in our shit talking segment, we want to talk about Heisman parity. Now, is it just me? You can let me know in the comments. You can timestamp it and let me know in the comments if you believe that there's a lack of Heisman standouts so far in the year in college football. Let me know who you rocking with. I don't know, man. The top 10 teams in college football, I don't see a Heisman candidate out of those guys. It surely ain't nobody on Ohio State. Georgia, maybe, but they got a, novice passer at quarterback. Oh, let me put the top 10 up there again so you guys can see. So Georgia, nah. Michigan, maybe. If Blake keeps at his pace with the touchdowns, perhaps. Texas, they're okay. They're doing what they have to do to win. I don't see Quinn Ewers world beating right now. He's not really, going crazy right now. Florida State, Can the real Florida State please stand up? They played a hard game versus Clemson last week. No Heisman performances in that situation. USC, they're going to throw the ball because they can't do much else. Rape State, that vanilla. Notre Dame, I think Hartman would have been really, really good if he'd have beat Ohio State with his arm. If he'd have beat Ohio State, with 75% with his arm talent on the field, I think there would have been a better turnaround. And Nix for Oregon, he's a good passer, but he's mid ground also. And Utah is a tough chin team, but I don't see the superior play coming out or LSU. So let us know, man. Let us know what you think while we shit talking on the Big House Breakdown. Is there a lack of Heisman parity, right? Is it Heisman parity right now? Or do you see some folks from your favorite team that's doing it that I'm just not seeing right now, that's getting it done, who could possibly be a Heisman upstart? Maybe Talia in Maryland. Maryland's 4-0. Maybe you like Talia. Tungavailoa. I think they're going to hit the meat of their schedule. And I think he's going to, listen, man, he a gunslinger. He a flamethrower for sure. Talia is a flamethrower for sure. In the Johnny Manziel, frame of things. You know what I mean? He's a Johnny Manziel type. He don't got the wheels like Johnny Manziel, but he can move. And he's looking to throw the ball first. So he can do some things throwing that rock. You know what I mean? And he got the receivers to do it too. He got the receivers to spread that field and get it done. I think Maryland may play spoiler to a lot of teams this year. I think Ohio State might take one from Maryland. I think Penn State could take one from Maryland. And if Michigan ain't careful, we could take one from Maryland too. Maryland's coming to play. They ain't coming to be nobody's poster child. You know what I'm saying? For a loss. So, but I do see a Heisman parity popping right now. I don't see nobody really jumping out, really getting it done, trying to be an outstanding, winning a Heisman, and then next year, I thought they were going to the expanded playoff format, but it's 2026 they're doing it. I was hoping in 2026 that the Heisman may have to be decided later on after you see how people fare in the playoff, gauntlet, the playoff series, as it were. Because then there's going to be people that rise up and be very at the point of attack and be very focused and on point and stand out with their play and their performance during that time period. The Heisman, they should go back to they should open up a new way that they judge the Heisman. And they should judge it based upon, especially in 2026, they should judge it based upon who has a better playoff series impact along with the regular season impact. And I know that's a lot of games and a lot of time to wait, but I think that'd be a great way to make it fair across the board and give fans something to really go crazy about, because their favorite standout performer that stands out in the playoffs has a Heisman shot. And that right there was shit talking on the Big House Breakdown from young man, the Vic, your host on the Michigan Big House Breakdown. And we getting ready to end it, but we want you to, we usually go an hour. We're a little bit over. We're a little bit in overtime, but that's cool. We want you to, as you look at the replay of this show, we want you to timestamp the areas of the show you like. Did you like game reviews? Did you like game previews? Did you like the eye test? Did you like the hot take? or did you like the shit talking segment? Because we got one more segment to get into, and we're gonna do this fast. We don't want to take up all night with you, and we're glad you rocking with us. We broadcast into a lot of Facebook channels, YouTube, Mob Crush, D Live, Trovo, Twitch, Twitter, and IG, Instagram, as they like to say it, right? So we got our pick'ems, we got our week 5 pick'ems, and we gotta do that, and we gotta show that. That's what we do on the Big House Breakdown. We do our week 5 pick'ems, and you can talk about what you think about your team, and we're gonna go over the top 10 college football matchups in our week 5 pick'ems. Well, we got number 1 Georgia at Auburn. Now, I would love to see Auburn stick it to Georgia. If there's any team that has a shot, any team that has the resume and the LOS beef up front to take on Georgia and make them squirm a little bit, that's Auburn. Gotta get a little sip in. Then we got Michigan, Nebraska. Now, this will be a LOS, line of scrimmage, punch you in the mouth battle for the first half. Maybe the first quarter. Michigan will surprise me if they go up tempo with their passing game. It will help them separate themselves from Nebraska. I think it'll help them separate themselves and get a couple scores on the board, and then they can just turn into that boa constrictor and shoot clock. I got Michigan. I got Michigan by like 4 scores. Texas, Kansas. I got Texas. I don't think Kansas can hang, even though they're ranked. I don't think they can hang on the LOS. I think Texas will eventually wear down Kansas. They may even have a couple big plays in the passing game. Rape State versus Northwestern. I think Northwestern will give them a punch in the mouth first quarter. If Northwestern can get on the scoreboard and stop hazing people, I think they got a shot. I think Northwestern is gutty, just like Illinois was gutty. I don't think they have the beef up front that Illinois does defensively, but I think they can make a game of it, at least in the first to second quarter. Penn State eventually went out in that one, maybe by 13, 17 points. Washington, Arizona. Washington got too much firepower. I'm going with Washington. USC at Colorado. Ooh, this will be they will be throwing up that football like rainbows and lollipops in this one. Shedeur Sanders is going to be looking to, and Coach Prime, they're going to be looking to go up tempo and take advantage of a poor USC defense. But USC may squeak the. You know why I changed that? I think Colorado's going to pull this out. I think they may get Hunter or Dixon back, or maybe both. And I think they're going to do their thing. I'm taking Prime and the Buffs. Lock it in. 3 to 7 point win versus USC. Maybe 10. Oregon, Stanford. I'm going with Oregon. I think Nix is hot. He's going to get it done. Notre Dame versus Duke. Notre Dame is going to want to make up for, the loss against Ohio State. There'll be too much for Duke. They'll ground it out, and they will make Duke in the group. And Duke is on the top 20. They got nobody to mess with. They ain't nobody to sleep on. They got a nice little passing game, and they they can get physical with you. I think Notre Dame would just be too much. They recruit a little bit too above board for Notre Dame. For Duke, I got Notre Dame over Duke. Bama over Mississippi State. I got LSU over Ole Miss, although that may turn into a dogfight. Those two schools know each other too well. And then you got Oklahoma at Iowa State. And I think Oklahoma has a little bit too much for Iowa State. And they will, face the wrath of a team that just is a little bit too talented. So those are my pick'ems those are my weekly pick'ems on the Big House Breakdown. And please jump in the comments on all of the channels that we rock on and let us know what your pick'ems are. Let us know what your shit talking is all about. Give us your hot take. What's your eye test on the Nebraska-Michigan matchup? Are you rocking with us on the Michigan game preview? And did you like the review of our Michigan game versus Rutgers? And we're gonna end it here. And we always come off the station saying peace, walk with power, and let's get it done. Hail to the victors. Go Big Blue. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. We out for the Michigan Big House Breakdown. Peace.